My name is Michelle Wimes, and I'm joined today by my husband, Brian Wimes, and a good friend and couple, Emmet and Marion Pierson. And we are here today to talk about relationships, particularly mutually supportive relationships. So we're really excited to kick off this conversation today. Good afternoon. My name is Michelle Wimes, and I'm really excited today to be a part of this relationship series where we are talking about mutually supportive relationships. And I have some longtime friends here that are joining me today, along with my husband, to kick off this conversation about mutually supportive relationships. And I'm really excited because these are two of my favorite people, most favorite people. We have known each other for a very long time. I think between the four of us, we have been married over 50 some odd years. It's been a long time. So I'm going to start out just by having you all introduce yourselves, tell a little bit about yourself, and then how long we've been married, and go from there. So, Brian?
Well, I'm Brian Wimes. I'm the other half of this couple. Michelle and I have been married now 26 years. We have known each other. We dated for a while, kind of extended dating.
10 years.
10, I was going to say 11, but 10 years. So we extended 37 years. We've been a couple. We started dating when we were 20 years old, and as we kind of moved through undergraduate, law school. So you'll hear a little bit about our experiences.
Awesome. Pierson's. Emmet.
Good afternoon. Emmet Pierson Jr. I would be remiss. We are doing this podcast from the Rochester News Market Rate Project on East Kansas City, so I'm happy to be here. Marion and I, the love of my life, we've been together and married for 24 years. We didn't know each other in high school, but she was too young at that time. So we're happy to be here as well.
And of course, I'm Dr. Marion Pierson, the other half of this couple. And like Emmet said, we sort of knew each other in high school, but not really. And then we were married in '98. And so we've been together almost 25 years. We'll celebrate that on June 26th. And I'm just happy to be here, share what we can about our experience.
Awesome. It's interesting because the four of us did a marriage retreat together in December. We have recently transitioned into the empty nester phase of our relationships, right? We all have children, and those children have now flown the nest, and we are in that part of our lives. One of the things that I wanted to talk to you guys about is, I sent you all a video from Esther Perel. Esther Perel is a marriage and family counselor and therapist. And one of the things that she talks about is that when you have a relationship and you're in a marriage, that marriage goes through lots of different phases. And over the course of a number of years, you could have 3 different relationships with the same person, 3 different marriages. Because you have different phases that you're going through, early in your career, early in parenting, without kids, with kids. So I just want to know, how does that resonate with you all? Does that sound familiar? Is that something that you feel like has happened in our relationships? Brian, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, most definitely. When we were first together, we didn't have any kids. We were married, and so we were focused on our careers, and shortly thereafter we had our first child, which is Sydney, which changes obviously your whole world. So now not only us but we have a little one who we have to guide through this world and to raise. And at the time you're a younger couple, and so you're raising this child, you're starting your careers, which we were at the time. And then as you kind of move through, we have our second child, that adds another dynamic, then our third child. And our children we had at different stages of our career. So I think definitely that's the case. I think you deal with early on. I think we grow, we mature as individuals, we mature as couples. And I think all the way to this point now where our children are gone, and now we're in this kind of final stage of ourselves, and I'm enjoying it, by the way.
Amen.
I miss my girl, but I enjoy it because it's been a while. But yeah, so I definitely believe that you do through stages as you mature and you grow as a couple and as a family in your profession. Naturally you change
it does resonate with me what she said about, how we change and in the different stages. What is interesting and a little bit different than your experience as a couple is that you guys dated for, like you said, many years before you got married. Emmet and I dated for about a year.
Okay.
And then, a month shy of our 1-year wedding anniversary, we had our first child. So really, most of our marriage has been with kids.
Yes.
And so we don't really have a perspective, which is pretty different of us just being us. Because pretty quickly, we had a baby. And so these 20 plus years are going to be so different than the next 20. And when we did the marriage retreat, which was phenomenal, I think that's what I kind of reflected on. I'm like, we really always had kids in front of this relationship.
Right.
And now we just have us in front of this relationship. And what does that mean? Which, again, is a wonderful stage, right, to be in. Can the church say amen on that? But it's so different.
It is.
What is that going to mean? And how do we navigate those waters? And I don't know if that's what you kind of think.
I mean, so I would say, Marion's right. We've had kids almost since day one. But where we are right now, it's exciting because it's about us. When you're a young couple, a young married couple with kids, so much of your focus is doing the right thing, providing the right atmosphere for your children. So your thought process is first and foremost, oftentimes, on the kids. And so now it's a pivot now. It's like they're gone, and I'm, like Brian, I miss my girls.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to spend, more time with my wife as we now can wind down from running around for soccer, volleyball, and all of that stuff. And even, going back and forth, seeing them in college. Now it's really refocusing on us and, seeing my wife through the eyes of being brand new. So I'm excited for that opportunity.
That's so exciting. For me, it's a little scary because I know that Brian and I, we found things to do in all those years that we dated before we had kids, and we used to play volleyball. We did sand volleyball together. We used to ride bikes. We used to play tennis together, and that has all gone by the wayside. And so now we're trying to figure out, well, what is it that we want to do together now? And I don't think we found our theme, which I would love for us to find our theme.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I think we do have to. Some of those activities were just too old. Most of them.
Hey,
you're too old.
Well, okay.
No more basketball.
Right, exactly. But in all seriousness, you do. And so that's part of the struggle now is just to see those things we like in common. I cycle, you like, we're doing yoga. We're trying different things that we can find in common that we can do together. But then it's still good to have those things that you enjoy kind of separately on your own. And I think one of the things would be riding my bike and kind of getting out on the road.
Yeah.
But
He likes to go fast, and I like to just meander around and leisurely, enjoy the scenery, and that's not so much what he
Well, I
likes
bought
to do.
a motorized bike.
He did buy me a motorized bike, so I could keep up with him, and I could still barely keep up with
so
him.
maybe y'all need to get together.
Right.
E-bikes.
Yeah, let's say I got the e-bike right now. It's sitting in the foyer.
Right. Get on the e-bike.
Right, yeah, we need to. Well, I want to talk a little bit about what the research says about mutually supported marriages. And I want to kind of just go through some of the things that research has said. That, mutually supported marriage is a relationship where both partners are committed to supporting each other and working to achieve common goals. Both partners show respect and appreciation for each other. They're able to communicate openly and honestly. And I'm going to come back and ask some questions about this, but I kind of just want to lay the foundation for kind of what the research has said. Both partners work together to create a strong foundation for the relationship. They may seek out opportunities to grow and learn together, like what we just talked about. Whether that means taking a new class together or discovering some kind of passion that they do together. One key aspect of a mutually supported marriage is the ability to effectively resolve conflicts, being willing to listen to each other's perspectives and work together to find any kind of solutions that you may have, to a conflict. And then overall, what the research says is that mutually supported marriages are strong, healthy relationships, right? And it takes a lot of commitment from each couple and each individual in that marriage. So I want to start with communication. And I want to talk a little bit about, how have in each of our marriages and relationships, how have we been able to communicate openly and honestly with each other? Have we found that to be kind of a challenge along the years?
You know,
Marion?
well, obviously we all recognize we were in a marriage group for, I don't know, how long did we have our marriage group?
I think we had our marriage group, I was looking at the materials from that this morning, like 4 years. We started
Yeah,
in 2008, and we
Right.
had it 2008, 9, 10, and 11, so 4 years.
So we had young kids then.
Yeah.
Michelle, thank you for getting us together. And we had 5 couples, so 10 of us together as just young Black couples raising families at different stages in our marriage, and kids were different ages at that point in the group. And we would just meet together and think of, talk about how we were communicating with each other, what were some ups and some downs, and some pitfalls and some high points, and just trying to information share. And then we quickly realized we needed to process a little bit from that, so we wanted a trained psychologist, Dr. Sir Taylor Cabot, thank God for Dr.
Thank God for
Cabot,
Dr. Cabot.
because she helped us do that, right? Lord. She helped us do that Enneagram assessment, and it's just one tool certainly, but what it helped me to see was that I was really looking at the world through a very specific type of glasses. I had a very specific pair of glasses that helped me see what I thought was just plain to see for everyone, but it wasn't. And it helped me to recognize I had a pair of glasses that I was seeing the world through, and he had a different set of lenses. And just the awareness that that kind of situation existed, people wearing different types of lenses, was real. Oh, everybody doesn't see it exactly how I see it. Again, as old as I was when we started the group, it was a new piece of information to me. And when I could figure out that Emmet was just looking through a different set of lenses, it helped me be a better communicator. So then I don't have to be offended or upset or feel neglected or resentful. He just has on a different set of lenses, and let me get perspective on what his lenses look like and see things as, and then I can try to adjust how I'm approaching him. So again, my communication changed entirely when I recognized a little bit more about the different lenses that Emmet see through. We don't fuss and fight, and I know everybody would never believe this, but I, at one point, was a pretty fiery person. Everything would be like, oh, okay, I want to just, all this energy. And I can honestly say, I don't, in the almost 25 plus years that we've been a couple, married and dating, we've never had a big blow. It's never been a big thing. And I'm like, well, before that, I was always on fire. Someone was always having go. But we've not had that because we started out as, hey, let's talk this through. We matured to, okay, let me communicate in the best way possible. And I think that has gotten us to the point we are. Again, we don't have to be fiery, I don't have to be resentful, I don't have to stay angry, because we're just gonna talk this through and figure out where your perspective is coming from, so you can see mine, and I think it's worked well, and that's been helpful. So.
Yeah, I think that's a huge point. I'm a kind of black and white kind of guy. Give me what it is, say what you need to say. I don't believe in letting things linger. Let's address it right then and there. And so I do think our marriage group and knowing the various communication styles really help. And how to receive information, but also how to deliver information. So I thought that was huge. Another huge part of our marriage group and communication, although it's kind of an off topic, but it also helped us to deal with the challenges of not only with kids, but also of money.
Yes, I remember that.
Because, for us, we were like younger, we were like, how are we gonna do this school thing and bills and trying to do this house and and we thought we were the only ones, and then we came.
Right.
Like, hey,
we're struggling too.
We're struggling. Hey, somebody gonna get paid this month.
Right. I remember those conversations very well.
And so that was super helpful because if I could have an outlet to talk about those things, then our home life, we could really focus on how do we be the best couple, how do we be the best parents, absent of all those pulls on a relationship like money, like in-laws, like whatever the case may be. So I think that was huge.
Yeah, I agree with you. How about you, Brian? What do you think?
Well, when I look at the communication and listen, I ditto to everything that Emmet and Marion said. But what was good for me during that time period, because I think that group was born out of maybe our communication and,
Yes.
and maybe the lack thereof, and we have to do
Right.
something, let's get this group, is it us? You know?
Right.
And so then.
We all needed it, right?
Yeah.
You thought it was just you.
Right.
Some
Yeah.
more than others. But in terms of me, and so it was able to bring together a group, and you kind of see it's not you. You're not on the island. And I think what Dr. Cabot added, she put perspective to, because you don't know. You go to a lawyer when you have legal troubles. You know, you go to a doctor when you're not feeling well. And so sometimes in terms of groups and couples, you have to go to a professional in that particular area to help you kind of discern and make sense of what's going on. It's not this person's fault or that person's fault. It could be about how you're communicating back and forth. So that's what I got out of that group, and it's helped me with communication. I think I've grown throughout our relationship with respect to community. A lot better than what I used to.
Yeah, I think what I'd like to add to that is, you know, you think about Gary Chapman in the book he wrote, The 5 Love Languages, and we talked a little bit about that. And it's, you know, acts of affirmation, words of affirmation, acts of service, gifts, right? Quality time and physical touch. And knowing what each other's love language is, I think is so important when you're navigating relationships, because if my love language is physical touch, he can give me gifts all day long and I'm still not feeling loved because I'm not getting the physical touch that I need. So I think being able to have those conversations and understanding our communication styles, understanding our love languages was just, and it just echoes what you said, Marion, so very important. I think that helped us out tremendously. What about respect? How have you been able to show respect for each other and value each other's opinions and feelings? Because that's one of the things that they talk about in terms of having a good, mutually supportive relationship.
So, you know, I'll jump in here. I think for me, it starts with my upbringing. You know, single parent mom, you know, she's all about respect. You give respect to receive respect. And so, and then Marion makes it, you know, easy, you know, but I think it really started at an early part of my life with, you know, a strong grandmother, my mother, and Marion's right, I'm not a whole bunch of fussing and all that stuff. And then it comes from having an open line of communication, no matter what the issue may be. Respect is a given in our household, and we talk about that with our children as well.
Yep.
You know, our children don't do a whole bunch of fussing and fighting, disagree, you know, but you need to respect your sister.
That's right. That's right.
And I think he's right. I think certainly we were both raised to just be respectful. You know, my mom was a single mom as well. She was hardworking, and so you need to be respectful of people's effort and their hard work. And when it comes to Emmet and I have just always thought to myself, what am I doing that's going to build him up, right? And that's a level of respect right there. If I'm going to say something, is that going to build him up or is that going to bring him down? Again, so I'm going to always be respectful in my tone because I want to make sure what I'm saying is uplifting. Not only because I need him to be uplifted because he's got to be a strength of our family, but so that our kids can see me lifting someone up, right? Because that's what I want them to do. You lift people up in your speech and your action and the way you deal with them. Because it doesn't benefit me or our family if I'm tearing him down or if I'm saying things that don't support him in that way. So again, it comes from certainly background and family bearing. And then what is my goal, right? If my goal is to be a healthy unit, then I'm going to have to be respectful of you. I'm going to have to build you up because the unit's not going to be healthy if part of our chain is weak, right?
Yeah.
So I'm always thinking of ways to build him up. So again.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, again, I would say the same in terms of just the way you're raised and respect others, if you want that sort of respect. But I think the big point for me, just with our 3 girls, is how they view me treating you. And I haven't been good all the time, but I'm very mindful of it because I want them to see always in a relationship generally just what a healthy relationship is. We're able to talk, we're able to communicate, we have respect for one another. Because more than what you say to them, they see what you do. And so that's like I said, I've been better at it at times than other times, but I think in the end of the day, they know what they see, and we talk to our kids, and we try to communicate, and, you know, no secrets. Our kids know what we know, and we share with them, but I think that's certainly part of that. healthy perspective.
Yeah, it's interesting because although my mom was not a single mom, my dad wasn't really around a lot, so it felt like she was a single mom. And so when you talk about the girls and trying to role model for them, one of the things that has really given me a lot of respect for you over the years is just seeing the relationship that you have with our girls that I certainly missed out on with my biological dad, right? And so just seeing that gives me a lot of respect for you because you have been just an incredible father. And that just makes me respect you even more.
Well, everyone knows girls take care of you in your old age. You got to be very careful. Make sure you're doing right. They will take care of you. They'll take care of you.
That is so true. But often I find myself, like even as we were coming up along the way, you know, in our marriage, early in our marriage, I found myself, and I'm just going to be real honest, sometimes I would be a little jealous because as I would look to see the relationship that you had with the girls, it made me understand what I missed with my own dad, right? That he just was not as involved and as integrally interested in me as a person like you have been with our girls, which I think has given them a really solid foundation. So kudos to you. What about empathy? Can you give an example of where you've had to understand and feel compassion for each other's experiences or emotions? And I'm going to start with you, Brian.
I don't have necessarily a specific example. I mean, that's just a part of a relationship. I mean, because you have challenges, whether they be professional challenges, family challenges, and that's just a good quality to have as a judge. I mean, you got to have a level of empathy to put yourself in someone else's situation and to be able to understand it. So that is critical, especially when, you know, it's easier in some ways because, you know, we're in the legal profession and the demands of it, we're both in that profession. But even within that, it's quite different, you know, whether you were doing firm life and I was in the public sector and I still am. And so there's different challenges within both of those areas. But I think just generally, you know, not specifically, but generally, you have to have empathy is just very important.
Yeah. What would you guys say to that?
You know, I think a large part of, you know, what we do is, again, try to make sure that we're able to balance and support each other. Early on in our marriage, Emmet said, you know, words that resonate, and I share this with everybody. You know, I went into this and I didn't have the benefit of watching two people in a committed permanent relationship growing up. You know, I had a strong dad and I had a strong mom, but they just were not in a relationship together at that time. So I'm thinking about, okay, if you're going to be in some permanent committed relationship, what does that look like? I'm like, okay, you got to be equally yoked. Everybody's got to get 50-50 and you got to find that partner who's going to do that even thing. And Emmet said, you know, but sometimes it's not going to be 50-50. Right? He said, sometimes you're going to do 40 and I'm going to do 60. And sometimes you're going to do 60 and I'm going to do 40. And it gave me so much perspective. So when I feel like he's doing 40, I'm like, okay, let me feel that, what's going on. Let me carry 60. Because in a minute, he's going to have to see me and give me some grace when I'm doing 20 and he's doing 80. I mean, I don't know. But I'm like, it did give me perspective. So then, again, I'm empathetic if he needs some support, some grace, some uplifting, and I'm expecting the same, right? So again, I think that has helped me really gain perspective. The balance is not going to be always 50-50, but let's figure out how to give each other what we need at any given moment, because we'll also be able to receive what we need at any given moment.
Absolutely.
I have nothing further to add.
All has been said.
That was great. You know, as I reflect, there was a period in our marriage where I felt like I had to show a bit more empathy and be sensitive, and that was when we had that 1 year where Brian lost his mom, he lost his grandmother, he lost his uncle, and his nephew, all within a 6-month or 4-month period?
6 months.
6-month period. And I mean, man, we talk about, because we all have to navigate these kinds of things, death in the family and things like that, but that was just a really challenging time. And I know that it took my husband, it was a hard time. And so just having to, and wanting to be supportive of you, wanting to be empathetic and understanding what you were going through, but at the same time, I had not been through anything like that, losing that number of family members. And so I think, we all have those kinds of struggles in our relationships, and you just have to know we're gonna get through this, and you just have to support each other through it, because those hard times are gonna come, for sure, they're gonna come. I want to talk about the big S word, sacrifice. What sacrifices have you all had to make for each other? Because that is part of being in a mutually supportive relationship as well. There are going to be sacrifices, like you said, Marion. Sometimes he's given 80 and you're giving 20. Sometimes you're giving 60 and he's giving 40. What do those sacrifices look like?
I must say that I think Marion sacrificed a lot when I was going through finding out or redefining my career. And so it was unsure, it put a lot of stress on the family, financially it put stress on the family. And so for about 3-4 years, I think she really sacrificed a lot. Sacrificed just the mental well-being of, okay, this crazy nut is out here talking about doing this development stuff, and I don't see no development stuff happening. And so, getting the business off the ground and all that good stuff. And so that's hard on a marriage when you have kids and all the other stuff that goes on with that. So I think, a huge, huge sacrifice was made for those, 3, 4, 5 years until stuff started to turn. But, she hung in there, she lifted me up, and so thank you for that. And so now I think we're in a position where I think I'm now ready to retire.
I think we're all talking about that.
Yeah, so
What does that look like?
we are talking about that. We're looking at tiny houses.
We're looking at tiny houses together
On the beach.
On the beach.
Somewhere. Costa
So-
Rica, Panama.
Yeah, so, but I think that truly made a difference, and it gave me confidence that, okay, you're gonna figure this out, we're gonna figure it out together, and it's gonna be okay. And so that was huge for me.
Now, how were you able to do that? Like, what did you have within you to say, I gotta support my man? He's going through this transition. I don't know what this looks like.
Putting the house online.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, all of that. How were you able to do that? How did you get through
I
that?
didn't see it as a big sacrifice at the time. It was like, okay, this is what's happening. He was 40 and he was going to start his own company, his own development company. I was like, that's right, that sounds fantastic. So maybe I didn't think far enough down the road. Okay, whatever. But in retrospect, looking back, I think it did. He sacrificed a lot in that situation, and then I do reflect a little bit more lately on the sacrifice that it took. He was working from home, and our girls were younger, so he did a lot of the child care, where I was got off at, and I had a private practice at that point, and I was doing a lot of transitioning as well within that profession and within the profession that I had. But he had to take care of the kids and figure out how to start a business at 40. But I felt like I sacrificed a little bit of time with the girls, and like you said before, you kind of envious of that relationship.
Yeah.
I was going to
You weren't
work.
wrong.
Yeah, and he was home, and I was like, oh, that was really good. But again, I was like, no, this will do. This is what has to be done. And again, I think it all worked out, but it balances out. It didn't seem like a big sacrifice at the time. What it did was seem like what you do to make your family work. And at every given point, I'm like, what is it going to take to make my family work?
Absolutely. Brian, what about you?
And that's the whole point is that whatever it does, it doesn't seem sacrifice. It's just you have to do what you need to do to help keep this unit together and keep this unit moving as a family. So early on, when you were doing international traveling, I had the girls, they were home with me. But as we moved through the career, different things you had to sacrifice. Maybe when I was going through the process of becoming a judge on the state level and the federal level, and just the things that now you have to do in order to support my career, whether it's report certain things you rather not, or
Exactly. Open up the financial records. I'm not trying to share that, but I have to.
but it's kind of part and partial to
Right.
just being supportive and how are we going to keep the family together and moving, doing what we have to do.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, that was, when I was thinking about this question, that was the big thing that I thought about was when I decided to take that international job and I made that transition from being a local practicing attorney to doing stuff internationally. And we had 2 kids under the age of 2. And yes, they were 22 months and 3 months, I guess, or 25 months and 3 months.
Yeah, they were
young.
little, yeah.
They were young.
I would have been a little. I thought they were a little older because my challenge during that period was doing their hair.
Exactly.
And so I think it was 3 and 2.
Oh, 3
I
and
think
2.
they
Okay.
were mobile. Otherwise, that sacrifice man. You need to
The
sell.
hair thing is a
But-
real
and
Right,
the hair
but I think
is
they were
real.
old enough
Yeah.
where I just.
You still had to do hair.
I know, but
You had to do
I needed
lot.
a mobile. That's
Yeah.
my thing. I didn't need to be carried. I needed.
But
a
I
mobile.
just remember when, the firm called me to come in and do that interview, and this man, just like with you guys, has never constricted me. He has never said you can't take that job, or we're not gonna be able to do that. And so he was like, we'll make it work, don't worry about it. This is your dream job, you have the ability to speak Spanish and practice law, we'll make it work. And you did, and it was just amazing for that 4 years that I was on the road and you were doing hair, and sometimes I look back at some of the school pictures.
And we did the best we could.
Same
We did the best we could. We did the best we could. I'm sorry.
And I'm like, oh, this was one time when I was on the road. I'm sure you were like, this is one time when I was, practicing. So anyway, I think, that was what I thought about. I want to talk about growth. How have you learned and grown together over the years? Have you sought out opportunities to grow together, and what's that look like?
Well, for sure, I think we've absolutely grown over the years in our careers. We do different things. We're at different stages. Certainly, we're growing professionally. But I think as a couple, we've grown because some of the things that used to be pitfalls for us, we don't fall into that trap anymore. That's not a thing we need to, that's not a problem we need to, resurrect and focus on. So I think growth is always there. Again, like at the marriage retreat, we're talking about what does the next phase of growth look like? Where are we going? I've certainly started to pursue my own interest with all the free time on my hands, which is 0. Starting a nonprofit at the age of 50, pursuing something that I've never done before.
And talk a little bit about that. Like, what's your not-for-profit and what are you doing?
We convert vacant lots in the inner city into honeybee farms, and we teach urban dwellers, especially, we try to focus on Black and brown residents because beekeeping in general is not very diverse, very racially diverse. So we teach people how to beekeep, and we convert vacant land and lots, which is at kind of an intersection between community development, which is what my husband does, and health, because a green earth and a healthy environment is healthier for all of us. So as a medical professional, that resonates with me. But I'm growing in that space, and he has absolutely been instrumental in that growth. He has no desire to beekeep, but whatever I need, he's like, oh yeah, do that. Oh yeah, what do you need? Ooh, how can I facilitate that a little bit more? So again, as we grow and think about ways to grow as a couple, that's one thing. And then as we find and mature our areas of interest, even as individuals, trying to support each other. So again, growth is always there, whether it be individual or as a couple. And I think we support each other in those areas as well.
Yeah, I think growth has occurred just from how we approach the next chapter of our life. A little bit more thoughtful, a little bit more selfish from the standpoint of, as we talked about, not basing anything on the kids. So, at some point we're gonna live someplace on some water, God willing. I'm not worried about what my kids think. This is where we're gonna be.
That's what we're gonna do.
I'm not trying to have 4 bedrooms. We'll have 2. I can work it out. So
Right.
and that in itself is growth to where it's okay to let go and do things for us. I think from a career perspective, truly have grown. I don't think I did that much to help Marion. It's just, I'm not an outdoors person. I think my mom, go back to the single parent thing, I think my mom overcompensated for my dad dying when I was young. And so I did a whole bunch of outdoor stuff. And I don't fool when I do it. You know, I don't fool when I do it.
I remember you said you went camping
Hey.
like all the time.
Yeah, I mean,
And now he will not camp.
And now he will not camp.
I can do it.
You
know.
can do it. You would save us.
I can
a
start the
lot.
fire with the microphone. I can start the fire with the magnifying glass. I can do that. But it's, hey, baby, you know what? I know somebody. Let me call and make, you know, let me facilitate this. You know, let me call out. You want water on the bee farm? Let me not. Hey, get on and knock that out for my wife. And not, I mean, it's a lot easier for me to do now. But
Yeah.
I think, you know, and it's also growth in those around us, you know, and how I interact with those around us. How do we interact with in-laws? I think I've grown with my father-in-law, who I love dearly. That was growth.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it was me and my mom. So, you know, that was our cocoon.
Mhm.
And that cocoon got Marion, and the cocoon got my girls, and that was pretty much the extent of the cocoon. You know, but now my father-in-law's excellent, you know, my brother-in-law, I mean, so those things have really helped me grow.
Yeah, I love that. Brian?
If you live in, you're growing, you know, if you care anything about it. And so just like with everything, you grow. You get better at what you do, or at least that should be your goal, to get better at what you do, at our relationship. Those things that may have impacted us maybe don't have the lasting impact, or the arguments that would linger on way too long when we had them, you know, they don't linger. We say our piece, we move on, and we keep it moving. I think professionally, you know, we're just at different places. You know, the growth of the girls, with us together, with our jobs professionally, kind of what we're looking for down the road. And so, I think, again, growth is inevitable, and I think we have embraced it, always embraced it, and tried to improve upon ourselves, our family, ourselves individual as a unit. And so, yeah, that's just, to me, just a natural part of life.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I have nothing to add. Perfectly stated. I want to talk a little bit about resilience, because Lord knows it takes resilience to be married 25 plus years, which we have been. I do want to talk about a challenge or a conflict that you've had, because it ain't all roses. It ain't all, you know, we all have had some challenges along the way. So what's one of the biggest challenges that you've had to face in your marriage and kind of persevere through? Brian, I'm going to start with you.
Well, you know, again, I know part of it was, what is it? I can't point to one thing. There's just challenges that occur throughout a relationship that just hit you. You've got to learn. I mean, you know, it was very challenging, the death of, you know, my family members in that period of time. I went to a very dark place. And it was just a difficult period for, you know, some time, and you would have to deal with that. And, you know, part of me, I wasn't as good with my emotions probably as I should be, and you didn't know. And I think, you know, that's a period. I think throughout there's been challenges within the relationship, but, you know, the goal is we're going to get through this. You know, we're going to work through it together, and we do it, whether it's with the girls, whether it's personal between us. But we have to, if ultimately that's what we want to do. And, you know, sometimes I think people are too quick to abandon ship when they hit tough times, and I think that's when you really have to put on your armor and be resilient. And,
Yeah, I think the other part of that question that I should have asked was, have you ever felt like giving up? And I would have to say yes. There have been several times where I felt like giving up, and I felt like we weren't going to make it. But I think you and I at a point said to each other, and we went to counseling, quite frankly, outside of the marriage group. We had to do individual counseling, we had to do, you know, marriage counseling as well. And one of the things that helped us was we said to each other coming out of that session, one of those sessions was, okay, we need to make a pact that no matter what happens, we are going to stand firm together, and divorce is not an option. So we just kind of, you know, we made that pact that divorce is not an option, and we're going to do what it takes to make this marriage work. And I think that was a turning point in our marriage, you know, just doing that counseling, because there were several times when I was just like, oh my God, we can't communicate, this is crazy, and the girls were all over the place, and it was just a lot.
And I think that's an important point. That's what I was trying to speak to earlier when Marion talked about when we had the marriage group and we had to bring in this third party. Sometimes you need someone outside of the unit, whether it's a counselor, whoever, a marriage counselor, who can add perspective to, and who can listen and get a good perspective. And neither side necessarily feels that they're right. You're hearing it from a third person who's that.
Yeah.
So that's that's helpful, and I think not always people look to that. There may be some stigma with that, but I think it's helpful.
Especially in the African American
Right,
community,
that's
we're
right,
not known to kind of seek outside help, and that's one of the things that I've always treasured about our relationships with each other and that we have in our marriages is that we've always been open to counseling and therapy, and we've done it as a group and we've done it, as couples.
And I was gonna say, I wanna pay homage to the fact that we all did our premarital counseling with
Yes.
Ron and Pam Green.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That's
Before we
right.
got
we,
married.
we were required to do this Catholic, pre-marriage Catholic
I'm not
counseling.
Catholic.
You were Catholic
I'm
then.
not Catholic. I'm still not Catholic.
Well, okay, in order to get married in the Catholic Church, which we all did.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know Ron and Pam Green had done your marriage counseling until years later, but we all did.
We all did it.
Yes.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
they are still a Black couple in our community who talked to us about what it would take, to get through this marriage and whatnot. And so, I'm gonna give them credit for, having us last for more than 50 years and thank them for that. But then also, I think the benefit of my career as a pediatrician has really helped me with the resilience through relationship. I have had an up-close and personal seat watching families navigate family for 20 plus years, right? I see families grow, I see them thrive, I see them break up, and I get perspective. What is working for this unit? What is not working for this unit? And you would think, well, that's not really perspective you gain in 15 minutes when you see kids, but you do. And so I've always tried to bring out what are the things that I can employ in our relationship that will help this unit thrive. I don't think I ever felt like giving up, because I just felt like that's just not an option. Like the pack you got to, and I went in, I'm like, this is it. I felt like I had enough relationships in my life, and I'm like, I kind of know that this is what I'm going to commit myself to, and it was like, this is what I'm about to commit myself to, and then that was it. It's just like, you don't even have to work it out, because this is all you get. I'm all you get, and you're all I get, and this is it. So that's how I've always gone through it, and each day that we operate, I'm like, well, shoot, if I do that, this is the only person I'm getting ready to get. Maybe I shouldn't do that. Sometimes it makes me reconsider what I do. Like, well, right. So anyway, I just, maybe you felt like you were getting out, but I was like, no, we're all in.
I'm going to answer the second part of your question.
Yeah.
I never felt like giving up. Part of that is that when I saw Marion when we were older, for the really first time, I remember telling her best friend, I'm going to marry her. So immediately I knew.
My best friend Shalon Kiki Curls, I want to give her a shout out.
That's what we're not doing.
Because I love her.
And so I knew then that Mary's my wife. And so that's part of it, is that I just knew, I'm done with, moving around. This is it.
Yeah.
Then Marion even says it now when we're talking to other couples, keep Black love alive, and, ain't nobody getting a divorce.
Right.
Just work it out.
Just work it out. Counseling,
Right.
pray.
Yeah.
So that's not an option.
Yeah.
Especially in the time frame where we hear so much negativity about the Black family. It's important that we talk about the positives and talk about couples that have been together, that are working together, that have worked through struggles. So giving up wasn't an option. I'm going to say resiliency is part of being one, an African American. So let me just say that.
Yes.
So that factors into the daily life.
Yeah.
Some days are better than others. But, you know, when it comes to resiliency in marriages, it kind of goes, you know, you have to be flexible. You know, it can't be a dictatorship. And so resiliency, when it comes to money, you know, may not have one account, you know, so everything comes out of one account. So, you know, if somebody mess up the account, okay, you have to be resilient. You have to figure it out and work it out. So, you know, resiliency on how we respond to our children when they were younger. You know, I was more of a, what? Now this day and time you can't touch kids, but what? I mean, you know, let's switch up. You know? I mean, so resiliency on how I had to adjust the way I thought. I mean, so it's been a journey, but that's just part of a marriage.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, one thing that has really kind of inspired me along the way is we have coached other couples through that marriage preparation at St. Monica. So we signed up to do that. And remember, we had a couple of couples that we coached through that. And then recently, we had a couple approach us and ask us to mentor them. So we kind of get together with them periodically. And that is rejuvenating. Like when you're meeting with young couples who are in love and who are starting their families, it just brings a spark, right? And so I know that for me has just been wonderful to see and to do. Yeah. So just one more question about commitment. Both partners are committed to the relationship and there's a mutually supportive relationship. Actually, you know what? I already asked that question. I said, have you ever felt like giving up? I already asked that question. So the wrap up is, I would like to ask, what is the one thing that you want people to take away from this conversation today in terms of how to be in a mutually supportive relationship? Like if you wanted to leave one piece of advice for people, what would that piece of advice look like? Or be?
You know, I think Marion said it earlier, something that I talk about to other couples. Not every day is going to be 50-50. You know, some days it might even be 10-90. You know, it might be 30-70. But over the course of your relationship, does it balance to 50-50? Does it balance to 50-50? So it's not every day. It's not every week. You know, who knows what the Lord has in store for us? So it may be, you might be 10-90 for 6 months.
Or 6 years.
Or 6 years.
Right.
Right.
It's a marathon, it's not a sprint.
Absolutely. And so, you know, I would want to lead people with that, you know, respect one another. Be okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to, you know, not know everything and be okay with not knowing everything. And enjoy the journey of being together and finding the various stages and steps of love.
I love that. It's powerful. Brian?
You know, I think the one thing, you just think about it, it's just divorce is not an option. That's it. You gotta work it out. I mean, you do. I mean, because all these things, and it's everything that Emmet said, but, you know, life is gonna hit you. It hits everyone. And there'll be ups and downs and good, bad, but you gotta stay committed. All those things that we talked about. It's just not an option. And you have to do what's necessary to commit to keeping that unit together. There'll be ups and downs, but not an option.
Marion?
Well, if I was speaking to young couples, I would say stop looking for a fairy tale.
Preach.
A lot of young people are like, well, I'm gonna wait till I find the perfect person in the perfect situation and we're gonna have the perfect thing. And then as soon as something looks less than perfect, they're like, see, this was terrible and I'm doing this and they're doing that and we need to be different because this don't work out because everything ain't perfect. Okay, well, that's not real life.
That's not real life. It's a fairy tale.
So don't even start out looking for that. Because when you get hit with reality, it's gonna look so different that you're gonna be ready to throw in the towel. So don't look for that. Look for someone who you feel like, and this is maybe my acts of service heart, who can you serve with and feel okay with, that you can get some work done through this lifetime. Did you find that person that you feel like, I'm about to serve with this person, I love them, I care about them, and we're going to serve together, I can deal with that. Well, then that's the person you choose, and that's the way you started out. Because through service, you feel like, well, you can accept some ups and downs when you're serving, you get problems. Service does mean ups and downs, so when you hit that up and down, you're not shocked, you're not ready to go a different direction, you're just ready to work through the service. So again, hopefully we're serving each other, we're serving God, because we are a faith-filled family, we're serving our kids, we're serving the legacy that we leave behind in a good way, and then we're loving each other and growing while we do it. So that's what I would tell young people who are starting. Start by finding somebody you can serve with and love, and not look for a fairy tale and then finally that's when we commit, because that will dissolve very quickly.
I love that. I love that. And I love that because I think a lot of young couples, they focus on the wedding and they focus on the ceremony, and they're not focused on what is the marriage that comes after that and all the things that are going to happen in that relationship. I would say the one piece of advice I would give to people is to take your marriage seriously and to be as intentional and deliberate about building a strong marriage as you are about building a strong career. When I think about all the things that we have done, like in all the years that we've known each other, we all known each other 35 plus years. We went to premarital counseling, right? When it got tough, we started a marriage group. We committed to that marriage group. We went to individual counseling. We are still doing marriage retreats and marriage wellness, things with each other. So, being intentional and being deliberate about bringing yourselves together as a unit, collecting yourselves with like-minded people who want the same out of life that you want to support each other and mutually supportive relationships. So that's the piece of advice I would say. Just be as serious about it as you are about your career and raising your kids and everything else. And then I think you can't help but be successful, right?
Can I add one thing, because I think it wasn't as prevalent like it is now. Stop living your life on social media.
Yes.
It's fine to share. You need to share everything, but stop living your relationship on social media.
Yeah, I love that too. Because sometimes what people are posting on social media is not reality.
That's correct.
Right? That's not what's really happening in the
And people give
marriage
you
and in the
feedback
relationship.
on what they see as a partial picture. You don't
Yes.
even know the full picture, so don't give me feedback. Right? So again, and then I have to respond to that feedback you gave me, and you didn't have to. So again, I think that is a hard part for young people, is that in the life and times of social media as it stands, be careful not to live out your whole relationship
That's right.
in front of people, because they don't see your whole relationship
That's right.
when they see those pictures on social media. And then again, you may get advice that's not so helpful to you. So, Michelle, thank you for the questions. Thank you for facilitating the conversation, because we're not sitting around thinking about all of these steps in our lives. We just are living our lives. So to be able to sit down and reflect with people we respect and people we love has been wonderful. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you guys for coming together and
Thank you.
doing this with me. Awesome. So with that, I want to wrap us up and just say thank you all for coming together and having this discussion today. It's been awesome. All right.
That's a wrap.
Yeah, happy Valentine's Day.
I guess I should have said happy Valentine's Day.
Oh yeah.